coffee is for leaders.
I like to work with people that are more ask for forgiveness instead of permission type people. The people that really just show extreme ownership, that whatever part of the business they're in, they own it completely. They'll make decisions. They'll take risks.
Bill, thank you so much for coming on the show. It means a lot to have you. You're the founder and CEO of Landing, which is the leading network for flexible lease apartments. Give us a sense for how you founded Landing, how you became the CEO. What was your journey to where you are today?
Well, I'll tell you my CEO journey first, and then I'll jump into Landing. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My father had multiple businesses growing up, and I've always loved business. So I'm not into sports. I'm not into any of that kind of stuff. My hobby is really business. It's what I love to do, and I've loved it ever since I was a kid. So I dropped out of high school when I was 16, started my first business. Since then, I have started 4 from scratch, and I've sold 3 of those so far. And I've had a lot of fun along the way. So I'm excited to share some of my stories. And the Landing story is kind of not unlike a lot of the other things I've done, where I saw a problem. I see problems all the time in the world that need to be solved. And with Landing in particular, I moved my family to San Francisco while I was building my last company called Shipt. At the time, I had a 1-year-old, 3-year-old. I was moving from Birmingham, which is where I grew up and where I am today, to San Francisco. Needed an apartment. It was a huge pain. I had to call all these Craigslist ads. I had to fill out a paper application, get a cashier's check, all this old school stuff. And I really saw an opportunity to create a new way for people to live flexibly. And that's what led to the ultimate founding of Landing.
Tell me about Birmingham. It's a very underrated American city. I love that you're back there. And is that headquarters, Birmingham?
It is.
Yeah, that's cool. Give us a sense for the tech community, business community there, why it's important to you.
Well, I love this city. I grew up here. It's a city of about 1.2 million people in the metro area. And I always tell people it's, most people haven't been to Birmingham. And I tell people that it's way better than they expect. We live a fantastic life. I live just a few minutes from downtown. So my office is in downtown Birmingham, but I live 6-7 minutes away. My kids go to public schools. Everything is easy to get around. There's so many fantastic restaurants here. I think that's one of the things that really sets Birmingham apart versus a lot of smaller cities, is we have kind of a legacy of incredible food. And on the business front, there's been a lot of successful SaaS businesses built here. I've got a number of friends that have sold businesses for anywhere from a few $100 million to, well over $1 billion. I created one of the first kind of consumer tech businesses here when I started Shipt in 2015. And it's a completely different scene now than it was 10 years ago. I mean, there's probably 100+ startups in Birmingham, and a lot of people building really cool things here.
So give us a sense for what you learned at Shipt that you've applied to Landing.
So many things. I've said for years that I always look back 3 years ago and say to myself, I really didn't know much then. And, it's been over 6 years since I've sold Landing. By the way, I'm completely obsessed with compounding, not just the interest piece of it, but really compounding of learning and capability and relationships and all the things that happen in life it's very hard to explain it to people, but when you kind of just see it happen in your own life, it's incredible. But look, I think one of the biggest learnings in Landing is when I started this business, we started right before COVID, and I'm literally late 2019, started the business. We had a little bit of a lull for a couple of months, but when people started to get out of their homes again, just call it summer of 2020, our business just exploded overnight with growth. I mean, it was incredible growth. And the thing that I missed, and I've learned it the hard way, is the original business model we had for landing really didn't work. The unit economics of the business didn't work. We had a kind of a bad business model, but we had so much growth, and I had all these kind of smart people, finance people, and everybody could show me a model how it was going to work, and it was going to the moon, and we were going to be so profitable. And, that didn't really pan out. And it became really clear a couple years in early 2022. And we had to pivot our business model pretty hard. We didn't really change the consumer offering, but we changed the underlying business model completely. And now the business has been completely transformed. It is a very profitable model and it works very well. But the thing that I learned is letting a business grow too fast on the wrong model can create a lot of pain. And usually somebody can show you how one day with just enough scale, it's going to work. And now the way I look at businesses is they need to work very early. The economics have to work from the beginning. They did at Shipt. So Shipt's business model really worked from the beginning. And at Landing, I thought it was going to be different, but it's never different. And the unit economics always need to work from the beginning.
Who is your target market at Landing?
Today, we're really focused on all types of consumers. I mean, there's a lot of use cases for our product. When we started, we were focused fully on living. So you could only stay in a Landing for a month or more. And my vision was people would live with Landing. Maybe they live in Austin for 3 months and go to San Francisco for 6 months. And what we've really seen is consumers and business travelers want the consistency of a hotel and the space of an apartment. And that consistency and trust is really the key piece. Like every Landing you check into, the Wi-Fi password's the same, the check-in's the same, the furnishings, everything is exactly the same and very consistent. And so that applies to a lot of people. It's families that are traveling. It's people that are going somewhere for a week. It's people that are on a work trip for 3 or 4 months or relocating. So there's a lot of use cases for the product.
Yeah. So give me a sense for what a typical day looks like for you as CEO of this company.
It's, well, every day is different, and that's what I like. I'm constantly I don't like to just let it go, let business just happen the way it normally does every single day. So I'm very close to the product and I'm very close to the customer. And that's something I've done consistently. I've been building businesses now for over 25 years, which is crazy. I just turned 40 and I've been doing business for almost 25 years. So I like to really talk to our customers a lot. So everybody that stays with us actually gets an email from my Landing email, and I get a lot of feedback. And so I take that in. We run what's called a weekly business review process. That's really important to our business. It's actually something that we took from Amazon. So I partnered with a guy named Bill Carr. He wrote a book called Working Backwards, and it covers a lot of the kind of Amazonian processes, and the weekly business review is one of those, where we review about 250 different stats on a weekly basis. If everything's going well, we don't talk about it. We really focus on, what's kind of outside of normal. So I spend a lot of time on that, a lot of time on recruitment. Talent is key to any business. So I'm going to New York tomorrow. I'm interviewing 6 different executives. So kind of all over the place, and like to kind of touch a lot of different things across the business.
How is AI changing the company, changing your workflow, changing your day-to-day?
Well, I think the biggest change, for me personally, I'm using Grok all the time. So that's my kind of AI of choice. I hardly ever go to Google now. And so, which is wild. If you think about how fast that changed. I mean, when's the last time you used Google?
Yeah. I use Perplexity, but same concept as Grok, right? And I don't use Google almost ever now. It's pretty wild.
Maps are the only thing I really use Google for now, which is crazy. I know Google has a bright future. I think they'll actually probably be one of the big winners in AI because they already have all the data. But anyway, so I'm using Grok a ton, and I'm finding the array of information I can get to so quickly. Like if I want to find out about a public company or something kind of minute detail that would take a ton of research, you can get it pretty much instantly. At Landing, we are using it a lot at the property level when we think about how we price our product, where the demand's coming from. We're making pricing movements all throughout the day on all of our properties. That's been one of the biggest needle movers for us. And the other thing we're seeing is it just takes a lot less people to manage the business day to day as we grow. So our headcount really hasn't changed recently, but our growth has. So we're pretty much doubling our business every 6 months right now. So we're seeing, insane triple digit year-over-year growth, and our headcounts, it might grow 10 or 15% this year. So we're able to do a lot more with a lot less now than you would have been able to do a few years ago.
Yeah, that's remarkable. What do you read? What reading recommendations would you have for us?
Well, one book I just finished is, it's called Last Man Standing. Have you heard of that book?
I have. Yeah, I've not read it.
It's all about Jamie Dimon and kind of how he came up through the banking world. And it is such an interesting read because it's real world, talks a lot about the financial crisis and how some of these deals came together where they bought a few banks, bought WAMU and bought, I think it was Bear Stearns. And so I absolutely loved that book, and I highly recommend it. Even if you're not into banking, I helped start a bank. So I love banking, and I found it very relevant, but I think it's just a great business book right now.
Give me a sense for, you're going to New York, you mentioned, tomorrow, to do some, how do you think about recruiting? How do you think about maintaining culture? Does everybody have to be in office? Those types of questions that go, into the recruiting process.
Yeah. So I'm a big in-office guy, but I've found, and most of our people are in office unless they're in a field type role, which we have, hundreds of those people around the country. But I think you cannot beat in person. But the reality, particularly being in a secondary market like Birmingham, I need to be open to hiring people in other cities. And we have some amazing people that work for us remotely, but it takes a special talent to have the discipline. A lot of people don't have the discipline to work remotely and kind of be as productive, but kind of those outliers do. So I've been kind of beating the in-office drum for a long time. I think it's coming back in vogue now, and it's certainly, you can certainly tell in New York, people are back to work there. That is one city where people are absolutely willing and want to work in office. So that's a big thing for us. But the other things I'm looking for, I really like to work with people that want to be entrepreneurial, that like a lot of latitude. I like to work with people that are more ask for forgiveness instead of permission type people. The people that really just show extreme ownership, that whatever part of the business they're in, they own it completely. They'll make decisions, they'll take risks. And then when I'm building a team, and the executive team I have at Landing right now is by far the best I've ever worked with. It's just an incredible team. And we have a monthly kind of executive team meeting where the remote people we have fly in. We spend a few days together. Just had that last week, and I'm in the meeting, and everybody on the team is challenging each other in a respectful way, but they're questioning each other's part of the business. And how could we do that faster? Or have you thought about changing this? And that takes kind of a special group, because on the one hand, you need people that are okay to ask the hard questions outside of their kind of little kingdom. And you got to have people that can receive that, and appreciate it. Because I think one of the biggest gifts, it's kind of goes back to wisdom. I was actually reading Proverbs this morning about wisdom, and like one of the biggest gifts you can give is to help people be wiser and give them correction and feedback. And so one of our core values or leadership principles at Landing is authenticity, and it's all about being authentic, being transparent. We kind of shout about our failings and shortcomings, and we're kind of quiet about our wins so that other people can learn from what didn't go well. And so I try to build a team of people that are comfortable with that.
How do you think about competitors And who do you consider a competitor? I mean, Airbnb is probably somewhere in there, but they're not doing it exactly the same way. Like, how do you think about your competitors?
I never, in any of my businesses, I really haven't spent much time on competitors. There's always competition. We certainly have competition, a lot of it. So we're competing with a couple of different groups. We compete with the major hotel brands, particularly in the extended stay segment. So I don't know where you live. Where do you live?
Utah.
Okay. Have you, are they building a bunch of like home two suites or residence
Yeah.
in, okay, you've probably seen that. Right? They're building these extended stay hotel brands all over the country. It's the fastest growing segment in hospitality because when people travel now, they want a kitchen, they want a little more space. So that segment's grown significantly. And then you have alternative accommodations, which people book through Airbnb and VRBO, and they built massive businesses, particularly Airbnb. And so what we're trying to do, we're kind of sit in the middle where we're providing the consistency and the trust you get with a hotel brand. I know when I check into a major hotel brand, I pretty much know what to expect. And so we're delivering that, but we're doing it in an apartment setting. So we're giving people the space of home. And what we found is when you compare Landing to the extended stay brands, you get twice the space, you get a legitimate full kitchen. You get in-unit laundry, which is really important to people when they're traveling for extended periods. They want to be able to do their laundry in their unit, separate bedrooms. And then the amenities we have are just off the charts because we're in all of these brand new apartment buildings. And in the apartment space, there's an arms race for amenities. So everybody's trying to build the coolest resort style pool and the best co-working space and the best fitness and theaters and all this kind of stuff. So we have these amenities that are off the charts compared to extended stay. Like if you go to a typical extended stay hotel, it's going to be this tiny little pool out back with, nothing. And then compared to alternative accommodations, everyone is different. They all have different check-in processes and what you have to do before you leave and the furnishings and the level of cleanliness and all that kind of stuff. So that's the way we stack ourselves up in the competitive set. But I spend very little time paying attention to what everybody else is doing. I have a vision for what I want Landing to become. And I know if I spend too much time looking at competitors, we'll end up building a 6-month-old version of whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And we'll always be behind.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, actually. Give me a sense for, how have you thought about funding the business? Like taking money, raising VC, all of that type of stuff. Give us a sense for how you've done that.
So my first two businesses were both in financial services. The first one was kind of a traditional financial services business with retail stores. My second one was fintech, which I sold to a public company. And then when I started Shipt, that was my first time to really raise venture. I'd never raised venture before Shipt. And I had a few great firms in that business. I had Graycroft. Actually, Graycroft kind of did the whole thing for me. They funded my A and my B. And then I raised from a group of high net worth individuals when I started the business, and I put my own money in. So I've taken a unique approach to funding both Shipt and Landing, where I've built this relationship with a group of people that I've kind of taken from company to company. So that includes venture, but it also includes this group of high net worth people that I know that trust me and that I love to make money for. I mean, I think there's no greater joy than having really long-term relationships in life with people you really love and care about, and that and they know you and they trust you. You really can't beat that feeling. And then delivering wins for those people is so cool. So I've taken a little bit of a non-traditional approach where I funded a lot of Landing. I funded through all of these relationships with individuals and family offices and people like that. And then I brought in institutional capital on top. And then I've also used debt to fund, particularly to fund Landing. Which
is a great way to do it, actually. Like too often we get a little stuck in the VC and taking money for equity. But if you can pull off the debt thing, you're not giving up the equity.
Yeah. Now it cuts both ways.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
If things don't go well, that's the challenge with with debt. But it all comes down to relationship. So, I would say you wouldn't fund a venture-backed business through a traditional bank because they have no flexibility. So if you're in the debt space, it's going to be venture debt or private credit. And, that's where a ton of growth is happening. I mean, private credit's growing like crazy, and you can deal with people that really understand that there's ups and downs in a business and that can work with you. And I think if you have great relationships, if you do what you say you're going to do, if you're a trusted partner, you can get all the flexibility you need.
Yeah. How are you thinking about the market currently? How's it looking? How is it affecting Landing's business? Obviously, first half of this year, a lot of, kind of uncertainty, let's say, given the tariffs and all of the new administration, all that type of stuff. Seems like we're a little bit more certain now in the back half of this year, but how are you looking at it?
Well, I was thinking about this morning, and I was thinking back to 2008 and 2009. So I had my first business during that time. I was in my early 20s. And I was thinking about it because I was reading Last Man Standing about all this stuff, during the Great Recession and everything that was going on. And I don't even remember being worried about it back then. Like, I didn't really think about what was going on in the market. And I think that's because even at the scale I'm at with Landing today is you kind of have to operate your business through all cycles of the market. So I try not to get too hung up on what's going on day to day because A, I can't control it, and B, I just have to focus on execution and what I can control. I will say though, compared to 2022, which was an awful year for tech. I remember starting the year. 21 was crazy. I had two friends that took their companies public. I was at their IPO parties. It was awesome. And then we started 2022, and it was like every day the market was down it felt like the first 6 months, and tech was out. And I definitely think we are back in boom times. There is a lot of capital out there. I think people are optimistic about the future. Outside of AI though, it's not like it was. Businesses, if you're not an AI driven business or in the AI space, I think it's a little more measured because so many people are focusing capital on AI. That will probably come back and kind of revert a bit. But I'm optimistic about where we're headed, and I think the economy and the markets are always going to be all over the place.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Do you think AI is a bubble? And I asked that because on the heels of Sam Altman, I don't know if it was last week, him saying we might be in a bubble here, and he may have alternative motives for saying that. But what do you think about AI and how bubbly it is?
From the outside, it looks pretty wild. It kind of reminds me of during the first .com boom when everybody was building fiber. I don't know if you remember those days, but people were building fiber networks all over the country, and then it all kind of fell apart, and then people were buying dark fiber, and it all turned out, 10 years later, it worked out. But anytime you have this much growth, there's going to be issues. I think a lot of these companies are going to be zeros. And if you kind of look at the trend, I think the AI itself is definitely going to be here and continue to grow like crazy. But the amount of capital that's just flooding in, there's going to be a lot of zeros.
Yeah.
You just don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah, it's starting to feel a little bit like that blockchain bubble. Remember when everybody was a Web3 company or a blockchain company? This is recent history, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And, almost all of those companies are zero now.
But you look at crypto, and now crypto is it's back, but it's more real now.
Yeah, it's a real tech. It's a real technology. Yeah, of course. Like the winners, like the Coinbases of the world are true real companies.
Yep. And people really are, particularly for Bitcoin, I think people view it as a true store of value now, and it needed to go through kind of all these phases, and it'll still have those. But I think it's real. People understand it more. I think AI will go through that. I think AI will have some type of crash. It happens in every major change. It happened with the .com boom. It happened with crypto. It kind of happens with every new business, but the use cases aren't going away. And then you'll see who your big winners are, and it'll be mainstream.
Yeah. How do you think about consistency? That's what I'm really interested in with landing. Because like you said, like if you go to an Airbnb or VRBO, you get like this book. You walk in, you get a book, and every rule is different and everything you have to do is different, and it's wild, right? And like one of the huge downsides actually compared to like going to a hotel where it's like obvious what you're going to be getting. How do you make landing and that experience consistent through all of your properties?
Well, I hate the book too. And I travel, I stay in, particularly if I'm taking a family vacation, I've rented a house and done that kind of stuff. And I hate the book. I don't want to read all of that information. I don't think anybody really does all these rules, all this kind of stuff. So for landing, we've just tried to keep it super simple. We start with the booking process. We make it super easy for people to book with us. When I started the business, we talked a lot about membership. We had a membership model. We've thrown all that out. You can still be a member of Landing, but it's very approachable now. I mean, you could just stay with us for a couple nights and it's very easy. It's just as easy as booking a hotel, or if not easier. And then when you check in, we try to have consistency everywhere. So we use the same electronic lock on every door. You just grab the phone and it unlocks the front door. So we have that very consistent. And then we don't really have anything you have to do. So when you check out, there's nothing to do. You can leave the trash in the trash can, the sheets on the bed. I mean, you just walk out just like you would of a hotel. And that's what people want. People don't want to think, oh, what does this host need? And if I don't do this thing exactly right, am I going to get a low rating? With us, you just don't have to worry about any of that. It's super easy.
Oh, I love it. Finally, we end every interview with the same question, and that is at CEO.com. We believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
Well, a lot of people. I'd start by saying my parents. I have amazing parents. My dad, I don't think he even knew what he was doing, but allowing me to go to work with him, and I answered the 1,000 questions that I always asked about his business and how he did stuff was hugely helpful. And then I had a mom that was just incredibly empathetic and supportive. And, she always told me like, you're going to be successful no matter what. The counselor at my high school that, when I said I wanted to drop out, told my parents, hey, we're not worried about Bill. He's going to be just fine. And then all the people along the way. I mean, the first bank that lent me $500,000, all the businesses I partnered with, like, the executives that have led deals to buy my companies that put their career on the line to buy one of my businesses. All of those people have contributed. I think anybody that's reached a level of success has had hundreds and hundreds of people that have helped them along the way, including all their employees that sacrificed. So I am thankful for a lot of people that have helped me get here.
Bill, thanks so much for coming on. Really means a lot. Congratulations on everything you're building. I love Landing. I think it's genius. And best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
Likewise. Appreciate it, man.